Hey guys, tonight we tumble into a storm of birthday balloons, overcooked lasagna, and a family feud so twisted you'd swear it was scripted for cable TV. You've RSVP'd to your younger brother's birthday party. It's supposed to be one of those low-key family things. Streamers curling off the ceiling fan, cheap paper hats no one wears, and the same old playlist your mom's clung to since 2004. But somewhere between the polite small talk and that suspiciously dry chocolate cake, something shifts. You feel it in the way your aunt keeps glancing at you, how your dad avoids eye contact. Even your brother, the guest of honor, seems rehearsed. The moment feels almost ancient, like a Roman feast where betrayal bubbles just beneath the wine, and you, unsuspecting as ever, walk straight into the trap. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. That part always amazes me. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You smile through the awkward hugs, balancing a gift bag with one hand and your composure with the other. The condo key in your purse weighs heavier than usual. Not because it's metal, but because it's about to become the center of a storm. Little do you know, the party isn't about your brother. Not really, it's about you, and what you own, and what they think they deserve. Historians still argue whether Caesar truly said, "Et tu, Brute," but right now, you might as well whisper it across the snack table. You barely set the gift down before your mother pulls you aside, all smiles stretched too tight, and eyes too eager. Her voice is honey-dipped concern. Sweet, but sticky. "Honey, can we talk somewhere private?" she asks, already steering you toward the hallway like you're a misbehaving toddler at church. You trail behind her, the air thick with that faint mix of air freshener and judgment. She ushers you into the guest bedroom and closes the door. That's when your dad and brother slip in behind you. You blink. This isn't a talk. It's an ambush. Your mom starts with small talk that goes nowhere. Then your dad cuts in, arms crossed. You know your condo is too big for one person. Boom. There it is. Subtlety? Not this crowd strength. You flinch. Not physically, but inside, something small recoils. You know this tone. You've heard it since childhood. When they wanted you to do something for the family. Let's be clear. You worked your tail off for that $660,000 condo. Internships, 2 jobs, the graveyard shift at that 24-hour diner that smelled like grease and broken dreams. But now, they act like it just appeared. Like the universe handed it to you as a consolation prize for being single at 30. Historically, the idea of property being communal within families has roots in many cultures. Ancient Chinese families would pass land down generations, but only to the sons. And guess what? Historians still debate whether that practice strengthened familial ties or just enabled manipulation masked as tradition. Your brother leans forward. "I could really use a place to stay. Temporarily." You meet his gaze and it hits you. He's not asking. He's waiting for you to give in. You blink once. Twice. The audacity practically takes physical shape, hovering in the room like an old sweater soaked in guilt. Your brother, standing there in his party suit, freshly shaven and all smiles, is now trying to act like this is just a casual family brainstorm session. "It'd only be for a while," he says again, like repetition makes entitlement sound reasonable. You know better. You politely decline. Calm, firm, gentle even. "I'm not handing over my condo," you say, each word carefully measured like ancient Egyptian weights, back when pharaohs used scales to judge souls. Your mother's face tightens. Your father exhales through his nose. And then your brother, your flesh and blood, laughs. It's the kind of laugh that makes your skin feel too small. Then, chaos. Your mother reaches out, grips your wrist. Not a full slap, but sharp. Enough to jolt. Your brother follows with a shove, more instinct than calculation. Your dad says nothing. That somehow is worse than any bruise. You step back, stunned, not from the force, but from the betrayal. grown adults, in party clothes, treating you like a villain in your own life story. The room spins. Or maybe it's just your expectations crumbling. Fun fact: in the 18th century, duels were considered a civilized way to settle insults. Gentlemen would shoot at each other to preserve honor, because emotional intelligence wasn't really trending yet. And honestly, right now, a duel sounds more dignified than this messy ambush. Historians still argue whether these dramatic displays were about honor or ego. But in your case, this family moment reeks of neither. It smells more like desperation wrapped in entitlement. You pull your arm free. You don't cry. You don't yell. You walk back out into the party like nothing happened, because sometimes silence is louder than thunder. You hover at the edge of the backyard, the scent of overcooked hot dogs and sugar-loaded cake mingling in the air. Balloons bob lazily overhead like they didn't just witness your family implode 15 feet from the pool. Kids shriek near a rented bounce house, blissfully unaware that you've just been physically shoved for property. You press a cold soda can to your cheek, more for clarity than comfort, and realize you're standing under the string lights your mom insisted on renting for ambiance. Funny how fairy lights can't hide cracks. Your cousin wanders over, half drunk, cheerful. He raises his red Solo cup like a lazy salute and says, "Man, your brother's so lucky to have you." You almost laugh, but instead you nod and excuse yourself. Inside, you grab your keys off the hallway table, the same one where your dad used to drop your school permission slips with a grunt. You pass the living room, where your aunt is gossiping about Botox, and your uncle is arguing about property taxes like they're gospel. Not one of them knows what just happened. Or maybe they do. And maybe they don't care. You drive home in silence, gripping the steering wheel like a lifeline. The glow of your condo's lobby lights feels warmer than any hug you've gotten in years. In 1929, archaeologists discovered the Pazyryk rugs in Siberia, buried in permafrost, still vibrant after over 2 millennia. A reminder that some things endure even in frozen wastelands. And maybe you're realizing that your love for your family has been wrapped in permafrost for years too. Preserved, but cold. Historians still argue whether ancient textiles were purely functional or symbolic. You're starting to wonder the same about family. Were they ever real, or just a threadbare comfort blanket? You park, you breathe, and then you make a decision. You wake up the next morning, sunlight cutting across your ceiling like judgment, your cheeks still a little sore, but it's not the sting that keeps replaying in your mind. It's the smug, entitled look your brother wore when he said, "It's not a big deal. Just give them the condo." As if your independence were a gift to be handed over like a slice of cake, you sit at the edge of your bed, scrolling through old texts. There's a dozen messages from your mother, all generic, emotionally bankrupt apologies, followed by veiled pressure. "We were just upset. Let's talk." Translation: let's pretend none of this happened, and you still owe us. You know what happened wasn't just a bad moment. It was a spotlight on a pattern. Years of being treated like the spare kid, the fallback plan, the ATM. And you've had enough. You tap Open Your Property app, the one you've been using to track real estate values. You click on the family home. There it is, still listed in your name. Because once upon a time, you were generous enough to help them refinance. Your signature, your investment, they begged. You agreed. And now? Lana sells a blady. Now you realize it's time for a reckoning. In ancient Rome, the concept of patria potestas gave fathers absolute authority over family assets. Children couldn't own anything. Some scholars argue it stunted the development of personal autonomy in Roman society, but others claim it kept families unified under one name. You've got autonomy. You've also got paperwork. You sip your coffee and whisper the unthinkable to yourself. Maybe I should sell it. Funny thing is, you already know a buyer. And this time, no one's getting a heads up. The FI. You start the paperwork that afternoon, cool and clinical. There's something almost cathartic about signing your name to the listing agreement. Watching the ink soak into the page like a quiet rebellion. You don't even need to visit the house. You already have the keys, the documents, the leverage. And besides, You're not exactly dying to smell that familiar blend of lemon-scented mop water and passive aggression. The realtor raises an eyebrow when you say it's a family home and yes, you're the legal owner. No co-owners? He asks. You shake your head. Just ghosts with entitlement issues. In medieval England, it wasn't uncommon for family land to be handed down through primogeniture, meaning the eldest son got everything, and everyone else got creative with survival. Historians still debate whether this was practical or just patriarchal nonsense in a fancy wig. As your home hits the market, a quiet thrill hums in your chest. Not revenge. Just justice with closing costs. You don't tell them. Not yet. You want them to feel the shift before they know why it's happening. Like an earthquake rumbling under a calm sea. You stop answering calls. You mute the family group chat. The only notification you want is from your agent with an offer. You spend the next week in a kind of meditative detachment. You still go to work, hit the gym, order the same overpriced oat milk latte. But beneath it all is that delicious secret, that your silence has become a strategy. The first offer comes in on a rainy Tuesday. Full asking price. You lean back in your chair, smiling at the irony. Your family always wanted something from you. Now they're about to lose everything they took for granted. And they still have no idea. You don't tell them even after you accept the offer. Instead, you watch. A passive observer to their oblivious routine. They post selfies in the kitchen, your kitchen, under the same chandelier your dad swore he'd install eventually. They throw another weekend barbecue, this time with sparklers and a DJ, like they're living in some suburban version of Versailles. You scroll through the photos with a mix of disbelief and amusement. It's like watching someone dance on a trap door. Back in the Renaissance, nobles held elaborate feasts in lavish banquet halls, sometimes as a final show of power before they fell into disgrace. Historians still argue whether such displays were acts of denial or desperation. You're leaning toward both. Your brother texts you the next day. Hey, Mom says we need to borrow your pressure washer. She also asked if you could stop by with paper towels. We're out. No, please. No, thank you. Just the assumption that your time and stuff are theirs. You don't reply. A week later, your mom calls. Then again. Then 6 times in 1 hour. Your voicemail stays empty. Your silence becomes the loudest thing in the room. That's when the messages start getting weird, accusatory, frantic. Where are you? Did something happen? Your aunt said you were spotted with a man in a suit. Is something wrong? You almost laugh. Not yet. Not wrong. Just poetic. Remember that quirky detail about the ancient Romans using powdered mouse brains as toothpaste? Yeah. You're starting to think your family brushed a little too hard with that formula. By the time your mom leaves a long voicemail about someone named Travis coming by the house with a clipboard, you know the final act is on the way. You let it play out. They'll know soon enough. Your brother's birthday is next weekend. The texts from your parents suddenly turn sugary. Your mom sends a photo of a cake she's planning to bake, triple chocolate, with candied pecans, just like you used to love. Your dad writes, "We're counting on you to help make the day special. Maybe bring your famous garlic bread. Everyone misses your touch." Cute. But no, you show up anyway. But not with bread. You wear black. No, not for drama. For power. You walk into their backyard, and for a moment, it's déjà vu. Balloons, folding chairs, beer on ice. You wonder if Marie Antoinette would have thrown a better bash if she'd had a Bluetooth speaker. Historians still argue whether her infamous let-them-eat cake quote was real or just spicy gossip. Either way, the mood here feels just as out of touch. You try to leave before the candles, but your mom corners you. Her voice is syrupy. Why have you been so distant? Everyone's worried. You keep it short. I've just been busy. Then your dad joins in, chuckling like nothing's wrong. Listen, sweetheart, we were thinking, maybe it's time you handed over the condo. Your brother and Mia are having a baby and, well, it just makes sense. Ah, there it is. You reply, it's mine. Flat. Cold. That's when it happens. Your dad slaps your arm, hard enough that a drink spills. Then your mom, yes, your mother, grabs your wrist and hisses, "Don't be selfish. You owe us." The crowd pretends not to see, like when Emperor Nero supposedly played the lyre as Rome burned. Something scholars still debate. Though, let's be honest, it feels true. You don't cry, you don't scream, you smile, and you walk away knowing exactly what you'll do tomorrow morning. The first call is to a real estate agent, Rachel. She's efficient, discreet, and most importantly, not connected to anyone in your family's twisted little network. You meet her in a cafe on the far side of town, the kind of place with cracked tiles and coffee that tastes like burnt history. She asks no questions, just nods, clicks her pen, and says, "Let's list it low to move fast." You give her the green light to list the family house. Not your condo, their house. You own it. They signed it over 6 years ago, remember? It was supposed to be temporary, a tax thing, a credit score thing. But paperwork doesn't forget, and neither do you. The house is listed within 48 hours. You don't even drive past it. But the photos online, filtered and fake, make the place look like a colonial dream. Historians still argue whether George Washington actually had wooden teeth. But one thing's certain, even he would have clenched his jaw at your family's entitlement. A week passes, then 2. Then a couple walks through the front door, smiles, and sees themselves raising twins in the kitchen where your mom once told you your dreams were a waste of time. They make an offer just under asking. You accept, quietly. No announcement. No flares in the sky. Just silence and signatures. Meanwhile, your brother posts another Instagram story. Him shirtless on a rooftop bar, sipping a $20 cocktail and captioning it, "Grind never stops." You almost laugh. And then, just as escrow begins, your mother texts. It's short. Panicked. "We can't pay the mortgage this month. Can you help?" Oh, the irony. You don't reply. Not yet. You let the message sit there, glowing like a dying star. One they didn't realize was collapsing until too late. You're sitting on your balcony, the city lights flickering like distant fireflies, when the text from your mother buzzes again. This time, it's longer, more desperate, almost pleading. You imagine her pacing in that old, creaky house now out of your hands. The house that once sheltered all those childhood secrets, now just an asset slipping through their fingers. Historically, families have fought over inheritances since the Roman Empire, when Julius Caesar's will famously caused a frenzy in Rome. But your family drama feels like something out of a modern soap opera, only less glamorous and more painful. The irony of your mother needing help from the daughter she tried to erase isn't lost on you. You remember reading a quirky fact about medieval times. Some heirs would hire professional mourners to fake grief over estates lost or gained, creating a spectacle to influence social standing. Your family's silent desperation feels like a much less performative but equally bitter version. Historians still argue whether financial betrayals within families cause deeper wounds than physical ones. You lean toward the latter, but the emotional sting here is sharp and raw. You decide to reply, carefully, coolly, offering a lifeline, but only on your terms. No more playing the victim or pretending their entitlement is deserved. Behind the screen, you're already plotting your next move. The condo, your sanctuary, remains locked tight. They want your $660,000 condo? They'll have to go through you first. And that fight, you suspect, will be louder than any party your brother throws. For now, though, you take a slow breath, the city's hum a soft lullaby. This family drama is far from over. The next day, you get an unexpected visitor, your brother. He walks in with that forced smile, the kind that barely hides the resentment bubbling beneath. You offer him coffee, and he accepts, but the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. His questions start polite but soon sharpen. Why won't you hand over the condo? Why did you sell the house behind their backs? You lean back and watch him closely. It's like watching a chess match where every word is a move. Historically, sibling rivalry has sparked some of the fiercest family conflicts. Remember Cain and Abel? Their tragic story echoes in countless families, even now. Here's a quirky twist. In Victorian England, brothers would sometimes duel over family estates. The absurdity of risking life for property feels almost comical, but the stakes for you aren't any less real. Historians still argue whether sibling disputes over inheritance are driven more by money or unresolved childhood wounds. You figure it's a messy cocktail of both. You tell your brother, calmly but firmly, that the condo is yours now because you worked hard for it. The house sale was a necessary move. You couldn't watch the family sink into debts and fights forever. His frustration is obvious, but you hold your ground. As he leaves, you realize the war has only just begun. But you're ready. You'll protect what's yours, no matter the cost. And honestly, you feel a strange satisfaction in standing your ground. The party your brother throws next is supposed to be a celebration, but it quickly turns into a battleground. You arrive feeling calm, almost detached, but the moment you step inside, the atmosphere shifts. Your family eyes you like you're an intruder, and the tension could be mistaken for a simmering storm. You remember that historically, family gatherings have often been arenas for hidden conflicts. The Victorian era's formal dinners sometimes masked bitter disputes, as relatives exchanged pleasantries while plotting their next moves. It's funny how the surface can be so polite, yet the undercurrent so turbulent. One quirky fact: in some cultures, throwing a feast to mark a conflict was seen as a way to bury the hatchet, though it rarely worked without a few heated arguments. You're pretty sure your family skipped the burying part. Historians still argue whether these confrontations are more about control or a desperate plea for acknowledgement. Tonight, you think it's a messy blend of both. Midway through the party, someone makes a sharp comment about the condo, loud enough for everyone to hear. Your refusal to hand it over has clearly rattled the family more than you expected. Suddenly, hands grab you roughly. A physical altercation breaks out. The shock hits you, but oddly, it feels like you've stepped into an ancient ritual of proving one's worth. You stay steady, refusing to back down. In that moment, you realize the condo isn't just a piece of property. It's your stand against old wounds and broken promises. This fight isn't just about money, it's about respect. After the chaos, the room feels heavy, like the air itself has been punched out. You catch your breath, heart pounding but clear-headed. Someone whispers about how your family always used their anger to hide their hurt. It's an old tactic, as old as feudal Japan's samurai duels, where honor and pride clashed violently in public arenas. Here's a quirky twist. In medieval times, some nobles would settle family disputes with formal combat, but today it's shouting matches and, occasionally, a slap. The decor might have changed, but the drama stays timeless. Historians still argue whether such violence in families is instinctive or learned behavior. Tonight, it feels like a bit of both. You look around and see your brother smirk. He thinks this was supposed to intimidate you into giving up, but you're no longer that kid who folds under pressure. Instead, you pull out the final ace from your sleeve: the deed to the house, sold quietly, legally, and irrevocably. The room goes silent. Your family's shock is palpable. You watch their expressions turn from anger to disbelief, and somewhere deep inside, a quiet satisfaction begins to grow. This wasn't just revenge. It was reclaiming control. As the evening drifts toward its bitter end, your mother's desperate text about the mortgage flashes on your phone. It's a reminder that family drama isn't just about pride. It's about survival, too. And now, the tables have turned completely. You sit alone after the storm, the party's noise fading to a distant hum, like the echoes of an old battlefield. The condo feels empty, but for the first time in years, it's truly yours. You run your fingers over the smooth countertop, thinking about the irony, how a place built with sweat and tears became a battleground for family grudges. Here's a historical nugget. In ancient Rome, families often had power struggles over property and inheritance, sometimes leading to exile or even assassination. Luckily, you're not quite in a toga-wearing crowd, but the stakes feel just as high. On the fringe side, some cultures still use rituals to cleanse spaces after family disputes, burning sage or banging pots. You consider trying that, if only to chase away the lingering tension. Historians still argue whether property disputes do more to tear families apart or to force them to confront buried issues. Tonight, it's clear it's the former, at least for now. Your phone buzzes again. It's your mother, begging for help with the mortgage. The desperation in her words contrasts sharply with the coldness of the earlier confrontation. You think about the silent revenge you've set in motion, the transfer cancellations, the quiet legal moves no one expected. It's a strange feeling, this mix of triumph and sadness. You're winning, but it comes at a cost. As you close your eyes, you wonder if someday the silence between you and your family might soften, or if this battle marks a permanent line drawn in the sand. The days stretch on, and the quiet aftermath settles like dust in the corners of your condo. You move through your space with a strange lightness, a blend of relief and lingering pain. Memories swirl, both good and bad. As you remember how this all began, how a $660,000 condo became the centerpiece of family drama. Historically, real estate has often been the silent witness to family feuds and reconciliation alike. Take the English Tudor era, for example. Land ownership was a powerful symbol of status and control, often fueling battles that shaped the course of history. On a lighter note, did you know that in 18th century France, some families settled property disputes with elaborate games of chess? It sounds like something out of a movie, but it shows how creative humans can get when money and pride mix. Scholars still debate whether family wealth is more likely to unite or divide over generations. Your story adds a modern twist. Sometimes, standing your ground means walking away from the past to protect your future. You think back to the party, the shouting, the hurt, the shock of being hit by your own blood. It's a scar you carry, but also a lesson learned. Loyalty isn't always what it seems, and sometimes you have to fight in silence. Now, the house your family once called home is sold, the condo is truly yours, and you're free to chart your own course. The road ahead isn't without its bumps, but at least you're steering the wheel. As you let your head rest back, the soft hum of the fan lulls you towards sleep, a quiet promise that tomorrow is a new day, one you'll face on your own terms.